some Gatorade. And I thought, you won't drink this stuff. And he insisted. So I poured in some Gatorade in his bowl. And before I got the bottle put up, he was back insisting for some more. He liked the damn Gatorade.
All right. Where'd you do the flight training at?
Did what?
Where did you do your flight training at? Your radio work, was that on aircraft or was that?
Both.
So that was all down at Texas A&M.
We did gunnery practice in
All right.
Florida somewhere at does Boca Chica sound right?
Boca Raton.
I think we called it Boca Chica, but I don't know.
Boca Chica. What coast was it on?
It's on the East Coast, I think, but I wouldn't swear to that.
Boca Raton's north of Palm Beach. So Boca Raton was used, and Boca Raton means Raton's rat, so big rat.
Okay. What is Chica?
I
Don't know.
I just know, the only reason I know Boca Raton is because somebody said, one time, it's big rat.
Okay.
It might be something like it has a tail going out into the ocean type thing, or I don't remember why it's called that. But so if it was the Boca Raton Stewart area, you were fairly far south, and you were there for how long?
I don't know. I think 2 or 3 months, I am sure. Time didn't make no difference then.
You remember the base, the station name? What Naval Air Station you were at? Now Jacksonville had a large. Were you that far up? Naval Air Station Jackson. Panama City is a big one. Pensacola Naval Air Station. You weren't in the Panhandle then, right?
No, we weren't.
Okay.
I think I would have remembered that. This mine.
Yes, sir. All right, so you ended up at Searcy, out Arkansas?
Seriously.
Searcy, Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
And you were there for how long? Plus 30 days.
It was 3 or 4 months. Best I remember.
And this was radio work. So for your radio work, that was navigation?
No. It was just, we had nothing to do with navigation, really. Except to tell the pilot what he asked for. No, I radio work. He might have got lost or something and asked you something, or whatever. I do remember they had I can't remember where I was at that time. we were overseas then. We were in the Pacific somewhere, and they had a bunch of planes trying to get out. There was a, what do you call it, a typhoon or something
Uh-huh.
coming, and I flew with I believe that was a R5C, and the pilot was a master sergeant, and the co-pilot was a full colonel. I remember that pilot's name. His name was Losi. He's a great big fellow, nice fellow. I don't know why I remembered his name, but I don't remember nobody else's name. But he was in charge. Of course, he and that colonel didn't have no problem. But I expect he would have straightened the man out if he'd had a need to. But the colonel was a nice fellow too. Maybe he just didn't have any time in a R5C.
You get to spend any time in amphibian boats, amphibian planes?
I flew a little bit in a
Catalina or
Catalina. What did we call them things?
PBYs?
They were, yeah, they were PBYs, but what did we call them?
Like the Grumman, Albatross, and
I don't remember what it's called. But the pilot told me if he had to land in the water, be goddamn sure I inflated my way west, because he didn't know if some of it should float off. I remember him telling me that.
Okay, so tell me about this trip that got you in trouble.
It was just, I just had a liberty and been to some town, I don't know when it was coming back, on the bus. The bus broke down.
So you just took off for 48 hours. You were on a bus. It wasn't going to the Beaumont Rodeo or anything like that. You were just getting off the post.
Right. We call it the base. I had nowhere in particular to go, or nobody in particular to see, because I didn't know nobody or nothing like that.
So you're coming back from wherever it was, and go ahead and tell the events of that.
Well, I knew it was late, and when I got to the base, I just went in and showed the SP my pass and whatever, and he looked at it and turned it over and looked at it, And he said, "You're absent without leave, boy." I think he said corporal, sergeant, or whatever. I don't remember what. Don't even remember what the rating was. But anyway, he said, this thing said you're supposed to be back at, I think it was midnight. It was about 2 or 3 o'clock. And I told him about the bus broke down. He looked at that pass real good again and said, "I don't see a damn thing in here about a bus."
Well, talk about being broken down. What happened when you were broken down with the bus driver?
He just said, we'll have to wait. Said if we're late getting in, they'll send somebody out to look for us. They didn't have no communication stuff on the bus.
Hmm.
It just is a country, little old country bus.
Was it mostly filled with servicemen, or were
Yeah.
you one of the few?
No, I might have been the only one. I don't remember that, but there was not a.
So it's something like a trailways just running between towns.
Right, right. Might have been during the week, not on the weekend. I'm not sure of that.
So you fully intended to be back at
Oh, yeah.
the base before midnight. How long were you broken down, do you think?
I don't know, 2 or 3 hours, maybe
Well,
longer.
you cut it close then at 2 or 3 hours. So you get there, he tells you you were AWOL, and go from there.
I just spent the night in the holding tank there too. I didn't get back to the barracks, back to my outfit for 31 or 2 days, something like that.
But what happened while you were in the brig for 30 days?
Nothing. Except to work the hell out of me.
Tell me what you told me about your 24 hours each day in the brig.
Well, you maul that log 15 minutes of every hour.
Now you said you were doing a cadence with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you had a log that was about 3 or 4 feet long?
The log was 40 or 50 feet long. The maul,
Okay.
The maul was about
Okay.
4 feet long, probably.
So you had to do a cadence to striking. You were basically chiseling away at a 40 to 50 foot log.
Mm-hmm.
How many of you were in this maul gang? How many were in the brig that had to do this?
Everybody in the brig.
But I mean, how many would that have been? You and how many others were in the brig?
Gosh, I don't remember. There's 8 or 10 in there.
So you had to do a cadence. And was it a 4-beat cadence, and you had four strokes, 4 off, or what? I mean, you were swinging them all.
I don't quite understand what you say is just like marching.
Right, but in other words, I can see left, right in marching. But when you said you were cadence, it was swing, 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 or was it swing? Was it a?
Go ahead and say something like hup, hup, hup.
Okay.
That was something like that.
Each time he said hup, you were supposed to be striking.
I don't remember. That's when you brought it up or brought it down. I can't tell you that.
And you had to do about how many swings a minute, do you think?
I have no idea. I have no idea.
But
Not like marching. It wasn't
about 40.
wasn't double time. It was
Well, if I recall correct, wasn't marching 40 steps per minute?
no.
And double time would be 80?
When I have no
All right.
idea. I don't remember what it is.
But you did this for 15 minutes every hour,
Right.
24 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
Then what happened? You finished your 15 minutes, it was not at ease. It was what?
I can't remember what he said. And he probably didn't say the same thing every time because it wasn't always the same man out there.
But you then returned to,
The barracks. We were in the barracks. Or whatever we had to do. Eat or clean up the barracks or clean up the area or whatever. There's something to do.
but in the middle of the night, you got up at, let's say, 12 midnight,
Mm-hmm.
at 1 a.m., at 2 a.m., at 3 a.m., at 4 a.m.,
That's right.
and you swung them all for 15 minutes, 24 hours a day, and then you didn't do any radio school during that whole month.
Mm-mm.
You were talking about you would sweat so much, you had to,
Mm-mm.
what'd you say about your clothes?
It was in the winter time, and you had to wash your utility clothes every day. So they dried on your back mostly. And you take them off, go to bed, whatever.
But you only went to bed for 45 minutes.
That's right.
Not even that.
Right, you had to.
Because you had to get out of the barrack and go to wherever you were. What's the term I'm trying to think of? It's a woodworking term. It's a tool that looks kind of like a instead of a maul, it's like a not a railroad pick. Is something like AYZ or something like that. Do you have any idea what I'm talking about?
Mm.
It's the way they used to chink wood with this pick-like tool, and it's how you squared up a log, basically. And that's what you were doing, was basically squaring logs, weren't you?
No, you just beat on the son of a bitch. You won't make it nothing out of it. You just beating on it. You won't make it nothing out of it. The log was just laying there half buried in the dirt for you to beat on. And the log was not supposed to move. That's why you was using the maul, so you wouldn't bust it up or whatever.
Okay. I figured they were at least making you do something while you're doing that.
No, they weren't interested in doing it here. They were interested in making you repent for what you had done. And they did. I thought it was bad to start with, and then I got to think about it. Hell, they were right. They were right.
You know, like I asked you, you never questioned authority after that in the Marine Corps, did you?
Uh-uh.